Well, it was only a matter of time. It was inevitable. It's just happened a bit sooner than I thought it would. The price war between BYD and Tesla, it's actually here. And customers are doing things that are making this appear as though it's going to have a huge effect on these two companies. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back, everyone else. Thank you for tuning in. My name's Sam Evans. I'm coming to you from Melbourne in Australia. I'm going to be presenting it fully charged in Sydney in March of this year. Love to see you there. And then again in London in April, plus San Diego later in the year in October. Big shout out to our Patreon supporters and YouTube members. Fantastic to have your support. Thank you so much for what you do. BYD and Tesla, two biggest electric car manufacturers in the world. You know, they're way bigger than everyone else. And my prediction last year that I made about a year ago on who the biggest manufacturers of cars, not just EVs, but cars would be in the world by 2030, it included those two. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a war. People have been saying, well, they're different car companies. One's premium, one's not. Well, actually, everything's starting to change. BYD is trying to move up a bit and Tesla is coming down. And right now, they're hitting each other head on. And what do I mean by that? Well, the BYD Seal was intended to be a Tesla Model 3 competitor. Now, its price is almost identical now. And BYD is about to bring the BYD Seal to Australia, to Japan, to South Korea, I believe, to Singapore, to Europe, to New Zealand. There's a couple of other countries I'm sure I've missed. Hong Kong. It's coming, but the alarming thing here is it's going to have a bit more of a battle on its hands than what BYD initially thought. Now, BYD were basically walking into markets and just selling cars on the basis of price. But now we're seeing Tesla lower the prices of their cars. For example, right now, the base model Model 3 comes at the same, almost an identical price to the BYD Seal in China. The thing is, they're very similar cars. The BYD is technically a bit longer. It's 4.8 meters versus 4.7 something. Very, very similar though, in reality. Now the BYD's rear seat has more space. Chinese love that. Really good for selling in China. But the Tesla Model 3 has a much bigger boot space. So there's pros and cons with both cars. However, one thing they have in common is battery pack size is nearly identical and battery chemistry is nearly identical. Motor power, well, the motor power in the cheapest BYD Seal is significantly lower than the cheapest Tesla Model 3, but you could easily just jump up a model, a couple of thousand more, very similar. This is a model that I'm comparing, very similar model to the Model 3. Then the motor power is very similar between the two cars, and I don't think too many people are going to care that much about that. Range is very similar between the two cars, but there's one big differentiating factor between them. And that is the charging speed of the Model 3 is much better. But realistically, a lot of people probably aren't going to care about that. Most people do charge at home 90+% of the time. So that's not going to be a big deal. Tesla's charging network is better. But then the BYD has some benefits over the Tesla. It's a newer design. People like the style. It's a cool looking car. Very, very fashionable looking car. It's actually got some features that some Tesla buyers do want to have. A heads-up display, for example. A digital screen right in front of the driver, that's another pro. And some people might say it's a nicer interior, but then again, Tesla also has some things that are better. For example, Tesla's safety systems are much better than those in the current Atto 3, and I just believe they'll be the same, that they are the same in the Seal. I mean, for example, the Atto 3 scored about a 76, I believe it was, in the safety test score in Euro NCAP, Chinese NCAP, same thing, and the Tesla Model Y and the Model 3 got around a 96 to 98. So big difference there. So there's pros and cons to both cars. But the key point is here, you're getting a similar range, you're getting a similar battery pack, a similar size car, price is head on. Now that Tesla's brought their prices down and BYD just raised their prices, it means that in China, I thought to myself, this has to be having an effect, right? This has got to be a war now. This has got to be some serious competition for BYD, who have really been able to waltz through the market in China, just take massive market share without anyone really having any effect on them. But that's just changed. Apparently, BYD salespeople have said that customers are actually going into their dealerships within the last 7 days since Tesla has reduced their prices just to cancel their orders, in particular for one model, the Seal. Now, is this a good thing or is it a bad thing? It's a good thing. It's really good because you know what this means? It doesn't mean Tesla's making better cars necessarily than BYD. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. That's not my point here. My point is here, what is good is the competition. The competition means these two companies have to keep on upping their game to beat each other. They have to keep on improving their product. They have to keep on, making their prices become competitive. I mean, if Tesla reduces their price, BYD increases their price, BYD might have to say to themselves, well, hang on a minute, maybe we shouldn't reduce our price so much. Maybe we need to, maybe we need to think about that because we're going to have another competitor here now who wants to take market share from us. Now, both cars, if you're looking at them in terms of the initial purchase price, they're both around $33,000, which is really good value. I mean, if you are one of the competition, that's probably the real big problem here. If you're selling a Honda Accord or a Toyota Camry, something like that, or even the Xpeng P5, which has been struggling as well, then you're really going to have a tough time. Because really right now, Chinese buyers, they see the two big brands of EVs or attainable EVs being Tesla and BYD. Tesla is still a slightly more aspirational brand for Chinese buyers, but BYD is perceived as being more affordable. But now that that's changing, now that Tesla is bringing down their price, and all Chinese media have been reporting BYD increasing their price, now customers are starting to say, well, hang on a minute, we need to go check each model. We need to look at them both. We need to compare what we're getting here. And this means, BYD had 700,000 pre-orders a few months ago in China. That could shrink. That absolutely could shrink. Now, keep in mind, Tesla getting 30,000 orders within 3 days. Where do those orders come from? Well, BYD salespeople have said, according to Chinese media, that many reservation users have come to cancel their orders and transfer to Tesla. The models involved in those cancellations were the BYD Seal and the BYD Han. The worrying thing here is, well, not more worrying necessarily, this is good for customers, but maybe a bit worrying for some of the salespeople, is that Tesla's VP in China, Grace Tao, said the Model 3 and Model Y prices will probably stabilize at the current levels. In other words, Tesla plans on keeping these prices where they're at. This will mean the Model Y and the Model 3 will be extremely competitive in China. There's been people still making comments all over the internet saying, I've seen these, by the way, in the last 48 hours saying, I don't know, Tesla cars are more expensive than Chinese competition. Are you sure? Have you done your research on that? I don't think that's true anymore. I'm looking at the prices right now. I'm looking at them today. I'm looking at prices all over China today, right now, looking at the spec for spec cars. Got to compare like for like. You can't compare a base model car that has nothing with it and you have to buy 7 option packs to get the same equivalent specification. You got to do your research here if you really want to get a good idea of what's going on. So that therefore, what this means is the Model 3, actually the base Model 3 really probably compares more fairly against the second model up BYD Seal, both around identical prices. Here's what Grace from Tesla said. In the past, Tesla has made several larger price adjustments due to external factors that have had an impact on costs. For example, when we became a domestic car manufacturer, the price naturally decreased compared to a pure import. At least the tariff was saved by 15%. For example, after our supply chain stabilized, it would definitely be lower than before when it was shipped from abroad. Tesla's supply chain localization rate is now 95%. So theoretically, there is not much room for improvement there. Therefore, I think after this price adjustment, the price should be relatively stable. In other words, Tesla doesn't plan on reducing prices anytime soon. But that said, what's going on with this new gigacasting, 9-ton gigacasting being sent to Tesla in China? Something's going on. Tesla's trying to reduce their prices as much as possible. What about these new sodium, lithium, hybrid battery packs coming from CATL? Are they going to be using those? Of course they will. Will that reduce their costs? Yes, it will. But BYD are doing the same thing. They're working on their own sodium lithium batteries, and particularly maybe just sodium batteries as well. That's going to reduce their prices. You can see how this war is beginning. Now, the war is beginning even more so because of the fact that Tesla's actually starting to reduce their prices in countries outside of China. Plus, Tesla sells direct and they don't do any marketing. All right, BYD is using local distributors across various countries. That's going to give an extra little bit of margin. Those distributors want to make their margins on the cars. So that means BYD's cars will have a little bit of extra margin put on top. But BYD is a little bit more vertically integrated than Tesla. They make all of their own batteries, so there's no middleman there. They can save a bit of money there. So both companies have advantages and disadvantages. But one thing we can see though is that what's going to happen is I think they're going to bring each other up. I think they're going to be competing against each other in a real hard, tough race, and pretty much everyone else is just going to be left behind. That's most likely. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching.